This story takes place in July 2016 on a 12-hour flight from New York to Tel Aviv. The Boeing 747 that they're traveling on is carrying over 400 passengers. After 8 long hours without any incident, the pilot takes the intercom and speaks up. If there's a doctor on board, please present yourself to one of her flight attendants. A few minutes later, a worried Orthodox woman goes through the rows and asks, "Is there a doctor amongst the passengers, or at least someone who knows about medicine? My daughter is not feeling well." Everyone answers negatively. The pilot asks once again, but no one comes along. There's no doctor among the 400 passengers. 20 minutes later, the following announcement is conveyed. "Owing to the medical state of the little girl, we are compelled to change our trajectory and land at Shannon Airport in Ireland. We have no idea how long this is going to take. We offer our sincere apologies to the passengers and thank you for your understanding and patience." 1 minute later, the plane is heading towards Ireland. This is where our story begins. Among the passengers is a joyful and noisy family, the type to prevent everyone from sleeping, resting, or letting them take advantage of an otherwise calm and serene atmosphere. They scream, eat, drink, sit down, quarrel, and make peace during the entire trip. No one rebukes them in any way because they're just the type of family with which you prefer to remain silent. It takes them a few minutes to understand what is going on, and one of the girls, aged 20, starts screaming, "I don't get this arrogance. 400 passengers will have to wait for hours because of this little girl?" At first, her mother tries to reason with her, but she does raise a very convincing point, at least in her family's opinion. "Did you see her mother? These are religious Jews. Okay, they have 10 kids and we're all responsible when one of them catches a cold? Leave your kids at home," or whatever you want, but why do we have to suffer because of them? Well, slowly but surely, she convinces her family of the validity of her argument. "It's true. Why should they make the little girls fly? Let them travel in Orthodox planes. Why should they take our Boeing?" The passengers remain silent, not knowing how to react. The plane is about to land in Ireland when the pilot announces that the plane would be landing 50 minutes late because it needs to spill fuel into the sea. The young woman, already angry, explodes completely. She decides that this plan does not suit her. She gets up and starts screaming at the flight attendants. "You're being so disrespectful! Everyone remains seated and silent, but don't you think that you're mistreating the passengers? If you have a plane land for every sick person, you'll go nowhere." Well, the flight attendant answers her that the young girl is in a very bad situation. "You don't want something happening to her when there's no medical assistance." "In my opinion, it's okay if she dies," answers the girl. "She doesn't interest me. It's her parents' problem if they had her travel on the plane." One of the passengers, who was completely outraged, answers her, and then a dozen of other passengers start to engage in argument. It is in this atmosphere that the remaining 50 minutes of the trip pass by. At landing time, the plane becomes silent again. Then the father of the resentful young woman claims his heart is hurting him. "All is well," says his wife. "We will land, you'll take a walk and it will go away." The man sighed several times. The woman in front of him tells the flight attendant to come and tells her that the man behind her is not feeling well. "Is everything okay, sir?" asks the flight attendant. "No, I feel like I'm having a heart attack." The flight attendant, in a very professional manner, does not panic and answers him in a comforting way. "Don't worry, sir. We'll be landing in a few minutes, and if you're not feeling well, we'll have you exit the plane immediately." "What's wrong, Daddy? Calm down. Get your act together," says her daughter, this time not from a place of anger, but rather from a place of concern. The plane starts its touchdown. The man really seems to be suffering. The wheels touch the floor and the plane stops a few seconds later. A few minutes later, which seem like forever, the rescue team arrives. The young girl and her parents get off the plane and walk towards the ambulance, waiting for them on the runway. Well, shortly after, the stewards approach the man who was suffering and ask him how he's feeling. "I have intense chest pain. I feel like I'm having a heart attack." They ask him to stand up, but he doesn't have the strength to do so. A few stewards bring a chair and have him sit down. And after assessing the situation, it is decided that his eldest son, who remained silent throughout the whole trip, would accompany him. They take him off the plane, and a few minutes later, the pilot announces takeoff. The plane takes off. Each passenger, and in particular those seated closest to the family, wanted to reprimand the young woman for her behavior, but what had occurred was more powerful than any word of rebuke. After an hour, a flight attendant approaches the worried family and tells them, "Your father arrived at the hospital. It seems that he suffered from a major heart attack and an obstruction of more than 90% of his arteries. He suffered from a cardiac catheterization, which succeeded and is now safe, but he'll still have to undergo a coronary bypass." The hospital's medical team said that he had really arrived at the last minute and that he wouldn't have made it through the additional 4 hours in the plane. "This little girl saved your father," says the flight attendant to the young woman, who starts crying and apologizing. The news spreads around the plane. Everyone understands the extent of divine intervention in this story. A sick little girl saved a man's life whose family was against the flight landing to save that same little girl's life. Everyone is shocked. If their opinion were taken into account, they would have caused the death of their own father. Sometimes human beings are so self-centered that they do not even grasp a situation until they themselves go through it. Caring about one's fellow can sometimes make a huge difference. Shabbat Shalom.